Part 46. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, Mishita Di. Chapter 452. Ding 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 ding. In the control room of the Gemini fortress, Chuletin connected the sensors of the fortress and sensed the signals in the star system. As the beeping sound continued, the countless dots in the sensor that were originally marked in red suddenly dimmed. Chuletin made a rough estimate. Because the opponent's front line was too dense, this round of asteroid belt strikes at least cost the opponent tens of thousands of starships. But not all of them were destroyed. Except for a group of starships that came into direct contact with the asteroid belt, the rest of the starships may have been temporarily shut down due to overheating. Receiving the sensor images sent back from afar, looking at the starships with half of their hulls melted in the images, Chuletin couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The combat effectiveness of the Gemini fortress is one of the best among many fortresses, and it is not just talk. In terms of group attack and beyond visual range strike capabilities, the Gemini fortress is almost unmatched compared to other sky-high fortresses of the Eldar and Scholar civilizations. If the opponent continues to maintain that dense formation, even if the fleet has hundreds of thousands of people, it is not impossible to fight. Just as Chuletin was thinking this, on the battlefield in the distance, something strange suddenly came from the screen. I saw that some of the starships that were basically destroyed suddenly began to emit faint light on the hull. Then, under Chuletin's gaze, those hulls seemed to turn into a fluid state, gradually starting to repair and heal themselves. "What is this, Ghost?" Chuletin murmured. "Ah, it's really a close call." In the combat base, Huan's hero looked at the large number of starships with less than 20% health on the projection display, and sighed. Fortunately, Sister Lianqian didn't take the lead, otherwise they would really die. Gao Qiang, who was standing next to him, witnessed everything from the beginning to now. It must be said that the combat effectiveness of the twin fortress is surprising. Even if the unusable fiery sun cannon is put aside, this method of melting the asteroid belt for attack can indeed pose a considerable threat to the fleet of the brilliant empire. After all, this kind of ultra-large-scale continuous attack is almost the natural enemy of the quantum state barrier. As long as there are no safe corners around, even if you activate the quantum state barrier, you will not be able to successfully transfer the damaged objects. Unfortunately, the assault fleet has undergone a second upgrade at this moment. After learning the material reconstruction technology, this round of attack can severely damage a group of starships, but it is not enough to completely destroy them. After the ship body is reconstructed, those starships that were originally shut down or even half-burned can return to the battlefield and fight again. At this time, Huan's hero adjusted the formation of the assault fleet and transferred those starships with insufficient health to the rear of the fleet. At the same time, the starships with complete health were dispatched to the front line. Looking at the twin fortresses in the projection screen, Huan's hero smiled and showed a small tiger tooth. "So, how many times can your asteroid belt be used for such attacks? Can the remaining asteroid belts deal with the fleet of the brilliant empire in time?" The answer is no. How much mass is there in the asteroid belt in a star system? Chuletin himself knew this very well. Even if an attack could successfully destroy tens of thousands of starships, it would still be far from enough for hundreds of thousands of starships. Because this batch of asteroid belts was not enough to support him to launch dozens of attacks, and it might not even reach 20 times. According to Chuletin's original idea, it was to let the other party retreat. It was not worthwhile to spend hundreds of thousands of starships to capture the twin fortresses. After all, the Sky Fortress could not be moved. He would stay here, and as long as the other party did not attack him, the only threat would be the sun cannon that could only be fired once a year. But now it is different. If all human starships have that terrifying self-repair ability, his round of asteroid belt attacks would not be enough to cause the other party to suffer painful losses. Then it seems that the other party would not retreat. But he is not a lord who knows how to give up. Chuletan was determined in his heart and continued to operate the twin fortresses. This time, Dongming was switched back to the Tianyan mode, pushing the asteroid belt rotating around the Gemini fortress away. As the asteroid belt's rotation range gradually expanded. Finally, the fleet of the Brilliant Empire was forced to enter the asteroid belt. At the same time, the blazing beam continued to fire, and the terrifying power could completely destroy a starship with almost every shot. But the blazing beam was not without any shortcomings. Although this powerful beam cannon was powered by a red dwarf star and did not have to worry about energy issues, it could only destroy one starship at a time. And destroying a mere starship was like killing an insignificant cell for the Brilliant Empire. Such a speed was not enough to defeat a giant. Tisk. Lian Qian said softly. So many things that get in the way. Destroy them, she didn't mind wasting some supplies here. After receiving the order, the main fleet following the assault fleet quickly moved forward. Countless lights streaked across the starry sky, and explosions came out from the asteroid belt one after another. At this time, the twin fortresses finally entered the attack range of the assault fleet. Our quantum shell is ready. Huan's hero naturally gave the order to attack without any hesitation. Countless artillery fire was directed at the shield generator of the twin fortress. Because the core of the twin fortress still needed to be taken away, Huan's hero did not order an attack on the core area of the twin fortress. While waiting for the main fleet to move forward, the twin fortress naturally had the opportunity to counterattack. Millions of artillery pieces on the outer armor of the fortress pointed at the starships that surrounded them from all directions. Countless firepower was fired at the same time, and for a while, they actually fought back and forth with the assault fleet. In the control room, Chuletan looked at the scene in front of him, but did not reveal any joy. Because he understood that these were only temporary. As long as the hundreds of thousands of starships temporarily trapped in the asteroid belt arrived at the battlefield, the average 2 guns of the twin fortress would face a complete starship. What's more, the starship still has complete mobility, shields, and armor. In comparison, those guns were no different from live targets. Obviously, if there is no strong reinforcement to support the twin fortress at this moment, then Chuletan will definitely lose. Thinking of this, Chuletan's brain synapses moved slightly, dragging a picture in front of his eyes. Speaking of fear. Actually, he has nothing to fear. He is even a little excited. To put it bluntly, the twin fortress is a bomb with thorns. On weekdays, either blow it up far or blow it up close. And when you are the enemy of the twin fortress, there are only 2 options in the end. Either get stabbed or get blown up. At this time, if someone looks at the picture dragged by Chuletan, they will find that it says, Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 453. Enable termination mode. That's right, since hundreds of thousands of starships cover the sky and the sun, they are so powerful and unmatched. There are no reinforcements in the rear to come to the rescue. Then why not destroy the galaxy directly at the cost of the Gemini fortress, and let the other party and yourself be buried together? When he thought that humans would regret attacking his Gemini fortress, Chuletan couldn't help but feel a little excited. It's just a Gemini fortress and his own life can be exchanged for hundreds of thousands of starships. This deal, he is profitable no matter how he thinks about it. However, at the moment when Chuletan activated the termination mode with his consciousness. Ouch! A plop sound hit Chuletan's body. He doesn't have the energy stance that covers the whole body like the Eldar. After being hit hard, Chuletan's soft body like a jellyfish swelled up instantly. What frightened him the most was, just now, the hit almost hit his brain. You know, the scholar civilization itself is very fragile, far more fragile than the Eldar. Compared to humans, the scholar civilization did not choose to use hard bones to protect their vital organs. They believed that bones would squeeze the development space of the brain, thereby reducing their own intelligence level. Therefore, as early as the early stage of evolution, the scholar civilization had abandoned useless organs such as bones. But it was also because of this that the only thing that could protect them was the transparent outer skin. After moving his body back a little distance, Chuladun looked at the creature that hit him. It turned out to be a small, human. How could humans appear here? Several question marks appeared above Chuladun's head. He didn't remember when the Twin Fortress had received creatures like humans. However, at this moment, the prompt of the war game suddenly appeared. You have completed the trade agreement with the brilliant empire. You have obtained the affairs officer, Qin Sui. You have spent all the property under your name. Ah! It's not just Chuladun. Gao Qiang, who was far away in the combat base, also received a prompt from the war game at this time. You have completed the trade agreement with Lord Chuladun. You lost the affairs officer, Qin Sui. You obtained the Twin Fortress. You obtained the war coin X16728. You obtained. A series of obtained items flashed in front of Gao Qiang. Just looking at this scene, Gao Qiang fell into the same confusion as Chuladun. What happened just now? Hey! In the Twin Fortress, Qin Sui knocked his head. Sui seems to have messed up again. At this time, Chuladun also saw Qin Sui's interface. Qin Sui. Occupation, Scout. Loyalty, 21. Features, 1 ear of gold. Chuladun was stunned for a second when his eyes stayed on the entry of 1 ear of gold. He seemed to know why the previous war game had such a prompt. But when did he initiate a trade agreement with that damn brilliant empire? Wait. Chuladun suddenly realized. Just a while ago, an idea seemed to have flashed through his mind. One twin fortress can be exchanged for hundreds of thousands of starships. No matter how he thinks about this deal, he will make a profit. No way. Can the two words trade be considered as conditions? Moreover, the deal he is thinking about has nothing to do with human trafficking, right? The scene goes back to a few minutes ago. Because Huan's hero unilaterally rejected Qin Sui's participation in the war, Qin Sui could only squat in front of the quantum matrix and curiously play with the big Rubik's Cube in front of him. Shake. Facing Qin Sui's curious eyes, the quantum matrix shook and moved a little further away in the cabin. It was this abrupt move that made Qin Sui's curious eyes even more curious. It is obviously just a core, but it actually hates itself? The establishment of the quantum matrix must have used the power of miracles. Could it be that the power of miracles made this core item have emotions? As an item built by the Eldar, it seems normal to feel disgusted with humans. Completely forgetting that the quantum matrix had just thrown him into a closed small room not long ago, Qin Sui quickly approached the quantum matrix. Extended a finger and slowly pointed forward. Poke. Poke. Are you angry? That. Someone reminded Qin Sui weakly behind him. Commander, the energy of the quantum matrix has become unstable again. Can you stop provoking the other party? Sure, Qin Sui nodded. Then he looked at the quantum matrix in front of him, which was obviously very interesting, and couldn't help but move his hands again. Poke. Zzz. As Qin Sui touched the quantum matrix this time, a space-time confusion suddenly appeared beside Qin Sui. Suddenly, exclamations rang out in the cabin. Quick, record the energy reaction of the quantum matrix. Wait, it seems to have a purpose. However, looking at the content translated using mechanical language, many crew members in the cabin fell silent. Quantum entanglement is a very magical theory. Sometimes, perhaps an unintentional idea of yours can be related to quantum entanglement. But no one could have imagined that. In the face of Qin Sui's harassment, the decision made by the quantum matrix was actually sell her. Zzz. At this time, the time and space confusion in the cabin had ended. The quantum matrix was still in place. But Qin Sui, the commander of the special fleet, disappeared. Many crew members looked at each other, shrugged their shoulders, and then devoted themselves to their respective work. Since the quantum matrix was moved to the special fleet, Qin Sui's disappearance seemed to have gradually become accustomed to it. So, how did this human being get traded to him? At this time, Chu Leidun was still brainstorming, thinking about why Qin Sui was traded to him. And Qin Sui had already blinked her curious eyes and began to look at the internal structure of the twin fortress. What is this? Seeing a very abrupt panel in front of him, Qin Sui's hand was very dishonest and clicked on it. Termination mode has been cancelled. The prompt sound attracted Chu Leidun's attention. Chu Leidun instantly turned his eyes to Qin Sui. Hey, human, what are you doing? I'm just taking a look, Lord. Qin Sui answered casually. Obviously, although Qin Sui has been sold to Chu Leidun under the recognition of the war game. But the extremely high loyalty of 21 points makes Chu Leidun unable to command the other party at all. And as the price of buying Qin Sui, all the buildings, troops, and warships in Chu Leidun's hands, including the Twin Fortress, have been transferred to Gaoqiang. At this time, in the outside world, because the Twin Fortress in the transponder suddenly turned into a friendly unit. The assault fleet and the main fleet were also very angry at the same time, and they were a little at a loss. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, Mi Shida Di. Chapter 454. This is considered to be taken down. In one of the starships of the assault fleet, Ping Suizong was nervously watching the battle situation outside the window. Ever since the Gemini Fortress launched the first round of asteroid belt attacks, he thought he would die here today. At that time, the asteroid belt was melted and then accelerated to superluminal speed. From Ping Suizong's personal perspective, it was like a river of lava with no end in sight rushing towards him. Just by looking at it with his eyes, Ping Suizong felt that his flesh and blood would be burned to charcoal. It is conceivable that facing the Gemini Fortress head-on would cause a great psychological blow to the crew of the attacking fleet. However, the result was beyond Ping Suizong's imagination. After suffering a blow, the assault fleet quickly reorganized its offensive, but the Gemini Fortress began to hesitate. Now, with only one head-on contact, the Gemini Fortress was successfully shut down. Wait, what is the Gemini Fortress doing? Ping Suizong widened his eyes and looked out the window in disbelief. Because he saw that the Liang cannon actually began to accumulate energy again and prepared for firing. Wait. Isn't this right? He knew that the Liang cannon had not been fired in the past 10 years, so there must be a backup energy source. But in this situation, who else does the other party want to attack? Judging from the current trajectory of the Liang main body, the target of attack can never be the current star system. So within the human race, is there any star system that is worthy of the other party using the Liang cannon? And the direction in which the Liang main body is rotating at present does not seem to be aimed at the occupied area of the human side, right? Just as Ping Suizong was thinking so, in the Twin Fortress, Chu Leidun watched Qin Sui activate the backup energy of the Liang cannon. And he directly skipped the ballistic calculation stage of the Liang cannon. To be honest, if this shot really goes down, he doesn't know who he can hit. Auntie, can you please stop playing? Chu Leidun asked stutteringly. Ever since Qin Sui started playing with his control panel, he had a very bad feeling in his heart. But it was not that he did not want to stop him. Really, he could not beat them. If it were the Eldar, although their bodies were fragile, they were covered by energy fields, and humans did not dare to say that they would definitely defeat them. But the scholar civilization was completely different. Putting aside all technological items, if they only engaged in physical combat, Chuledun had no doubt that any human youth could knock down two of them with his bare hands. One with the left hand and one with the right hand. Of course, since the body was so fragile, the scholar civilization could not help but create something to protect itself. Chuledun looked at the security machines on both sides that pressed him to the ground, and he could not help but grit his teeth. These iron lumps really protected themselves too well. Oh no, they were no longer his property. Since Jinsui was acquired through the trade, the entire Gemini fortress, including the security machines inside the Gemini fortress, have all become high-strength items. Therefore, after entering the control room, the first thing this group of security machines did was to control the uninvited guest, Chuledun. As for Jinsui, she had activated the ghost mode unique to the special fleet early, perfectly avoiding the sight of the security machines. The Liang cannon has been fully charged. At this time, a prompt sound came from the Gemini fortress. Chuledun's bad premonition became stronger and stronger. Hey, can you really not see her? Chuledun kept struggling and trying to attract the attention of the security machines to make them notice the existence of Jinsui. Because Jinsui is currently considered a subject of Chuledun, if the security machine can notice Jinsui, it will definitely control Jinsui like controlling Chuledun. Unfortunately, Chuledun's calculations still fell through. The security machine pressed Chuledun rigidly without moving, and was not affected by Chuledun's words at all. Even because it was not Chuledun's item. Even when Chuledun wanted to use brain synapses to connect these security machines and share vision with them, he was ruthlessly interrupted by the security machines. At this time, Chuledun couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he had known that there would be such a day, he should have equipped these security machines with the most advanced intellectual modules. At least, these security machines should learn to doubt. Just as Chuledun was feeling regretful, Jinsui finally fired the Liang cannon. An extremely dazzling beam of light was fired, firing towards a corner that Chuledun didn't know where it was. But it was because of not knowing that it was really fatal. God knows who Jinsui's attack will eventually hit. At this time, Chuledun saw that in the monitoring of the Twin Fortress, the fleet from the outside world had begun to land on the Twin Fortress. At this time, he couldn't help but hope that the other party could be faster. Hurry up and find this control room. After all, Jinsui can't continue to make trouble. However, Chuledun's calculations were empty again. The Twin Fortresses were too big. The outside assault fleet only targeted the core of the Twin Fortresses and was not interested in controlling them. Therefore, after a full hour, the landing marines did not even think of coming to the control room to take a look. The landing crew did not arrive, but Chuledun received the victory news from the Twin Fortresses. Target galaxy, destroyed. Bang, hit the target. Obviously, Jinsui didn't know who the fiery sun cannon had just hit. But she was obviously having a lot of fun. The only one who felt upset was Chuledun. Chuledun carefully looked at the screen on the control panel. The last shot should have hit an uninhabited galaxy, right? However, just when Chuledun was thinking so, his friend list was already flooded with messages from countless scholars and civilization lords. Chuledun, you are still alive. Chuledun, what are you doing? Do you know what you just did? Looking at the overwhelming questioning messages, Chuledun took a while to understand what had just happened. Jinsui didn't aim at all and released the fiery sun cannon at random. It happened to hit the territory of the Eldar in the nearby galaxy. At the same time, it destroyed the sky-supporting fortress built by the Eldar, Chongming Fortress. It would be fine if Chuledun died at this moment. Everyone knew that the Twin Fortress had fallen, and it would be good to give an explanation to the Eldar. But the problem lies here. Chuletin is still alive. And he is alive in the control room of the Twin Fortress. To say that the firing of the fiery sun cannon has nothing to do with Chuletin, whether the Eldar believe it or not is another matter. Anyway, in the scholar's civilization, there are basically few lords who believe it. Listen to my explanation. Chuletin said something, trying to explain to the other lords of the scholar's civilization. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 455. So, you mean, you traded all your stuff for a human affairs officer. And now you are controlled by your own security machine, and you can't even commit suicide. Ha ha ha. Although the scholar civilization and the Eldar are somewhat on the verge of a fight because of the fiery sun cannon. But after listening to Chuletin's explanation, many lords of the scholar civilization couldn't help laughing. Chuletin, why didn't I realize that you have a talent for telling magic stories before? I have known you for decades, and I always thought you were a cold-blooded guy, but I didn't expect that I misunderstood you. Obviously, no lord of the scholar civilization believed that an affairs officer exchanged all the materials, buildings, and troops. As a racial force based on science, the scholar civilization has its own set of logical judgments. And the story that Chuletin said is not logical. However, although many lords of the scholar civilization did not believe it, they still believed it. Because they needed such a reason. Okay, Chuletin, the story is well written, just don't forget it later. We will help you explain to the Eldar, just use the story you told. Well, you stay out of the limelight for a short time and don't irritate the Eldar anymore, this matter should be over. After all, they are still their own people. The scholar civilization cannot hand over one of its own sky-bearing fortresses to calm the anger of the Eldar. Didn't the Eldar destroy a sky-bearing fortress on their side? Anyway, there is an old saying that it is a blessing to suffer a loss. The Eldar will get used to it sooner or later if they suffer more losses. Seeing that many lords misunderstood him, Chuletin felt like crying but had no tears. He really didn't mean that. However, if it can really be covered up like this, it would be a good thing. As for irritating the Eldar again? No, absolutely not. He once fired a fiery sun cannon at the fortress of the peak of the meteorite. Now Qin Sui has activated the backup energy of the fiery sun cannon and handed the last firing opportunity to the Chongming fortress of the Eldar. That is to say, for a long time, the twin fortresses will no longer have cross-galaxy strike power. One more shot. What? Seeing Qin Sui excitedly start the fiery sun cannon again. Chuletin looked at the control panel in disbelief. In the control panel, the fiery sun cannon actually started to prepare for firing. But how come even he, the builder of the twin fortresses, didn't know when the fiery sun cannon of the twin fortresses could fire the third round in a row? No, no, no. Chuletin reacted instantly. The last fiery sun cannon had destroyed a sky-supporting fortress of the Eldar. If the firing direction of the fiery sun cannon had not changed, the next shot should still be aimed at the Eldar. At this moment, the Eldar communication channel was also arguing about this. Damn it, the scholar civilization and the others clearly did it on purpose, an Eldar lord cursed angrily. Chuletin's explanation to the many lords of the scholar civilization was naturally passed on to the Eldar by the scholar civilization. However, he sold all his assets and was pinned to the ground by his own assets. Who would believe such an outrageous lie? I believe it. Suddenly, another Eldar lord said. You must understand that now is not the time to go to war with the scholar civilization. The scholar civilization chose to destroy one of our sky-high fortresses now, which can only prove that they are afraid of us. They are afraid that after cleaning up humans, they will not have the power to compete with us, so they will do what they are doing now. But they are losing their minds, but we cannot ignore the overall situation. Once we go to war with the scholar civilization now, then humans will surely rise up in the chaos, and all the efforts we made with the scholar civilization earlier will really be in vain. That makes sense. Soon, many Eldar lords responded to this statement. In fact, they still don't quite believe Chuletan's words, but for the sake of the overall situation, they have to believe it. In the eyes of many Eldar, the scholar civilization is gambling. Betting that they can weaken the fighting power of the Eldar and make the Eldar swallow this breath. Fortunately, they bet right. ZZ. What just happened? After hearing a violent noise in the communication channel, an Eldar lord immediately asked. It seems that something happened to the Arclight fortress. Realizing that something was wrong, many Eldar lords hurriedly checked the communication channel. Sure enough, all the Eldar lords in the Arclight fortress had lost contact. It's the fiery sun cannon, a lord screamed. The fiery sun cannon directly destroyed the galaxy where the Arclight fortress is located. Hearing this, the faces of all the Eldar lords became extremely ugly. The light spots under their faces expanded rapidly, as if they were trying their best to restrain their anger. First Chongming, then Arclight. Continuously destroyed 2 Eldar sky fortresses. Now whoever believes that he didn't do it on purpose is a fool. No matter how careless he is, can he accidentally destroy 2 Eldar sky fortresses in a row? It's almost like being careless on purpose. Including the garden fortress that fell earlier. The Eldar lords in the communication channel were shocked to find that the Eldar had lost 3 sky-bearing fortresses. In other words, in this war game, the overall strength of the Eldar has been greatly weakened. If I remember correctly, the sun cannon seems to have fired 3 times in a row, a lord said silently. It was this sentence that made all the lords in the channel realize. The threat of the scholar civilization seemed too high. A strategic weapon like the sun cannon, even if the firing frequency is only increased once, is extremely terrifying. And now that the opponent has fired 3 times in a row, it is no longer a matter of deterrence. This makes their allies want to get rid of him as soon as possible. We underestimated our ally too much. The lord who advocated swallowing his anger at the beginning stood up and said silently. He actually took the overall situation into consideration. But now, for the Eldar, getting rid of the scholar civilization is the best way to take the overall situation into consideration. The scholar civilization cannot be allowed to continue to develop. The Eldar have declared war on the scholar civilization, reason for the declaration, total war. Listening to the prompts from the war game, Chu Lidun collapsed. He could fully imagine what happened. The new sun cannon was probably either hitting the Eldar territory or blowing up another Eldar sky fortress. The continuous loss of sky fortresses will lead to an imbalance in the combat power between the Eldar and the scholar civilization. Balance is the core element for an alliance to be maintained for a long time. The fear brought by imbalance will break any unbreakable alliance. What's more, the alliance between the Eldar and the scholar civilization is far from being unbreakable. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 456. Faced with the declaration of war by the Eldar, the scholar civilization will obviously not be the kind of coward who is willing to seek peace. Therefore, this all-out war may have to be fought. However, the fuse was because of himself. Until then, Chu Lidun's mind was in a trance for a moment. He didn't care about his own death, but he didn't want to leave a bad name in his own race after his death. Unfortunately, all this was out of his control. In a trance, Chu Lidun suddenly realized that the force suppressing his body had eased a little and became soft. No, the iron lump of the security machine didn't know what it meant to treat prisoners well. Chu Lidun retracted his gaze from Qin Sui and looked down at himself. But he found that the security machine that had suppressed him had disappeared, replaced by a few gray spider silks. The spider silk stuck him to the ground in the control room, so he was completely unable to move just now. But where did the spider silk come from? Chu Leidun was not afraid at the first time, but looked at the surrounding environment vigilantly. He realized it. Now in this control room, in addition to him and Qin Sui, there should be a third person. Russell. A huge spider-shaped monster, hanging upside down from the ceiling, fell in front of Chu Leidun, blocking Chu Leidun and Qin Sui. Sure enough, there is a race like you hidden in this war game. So everything that is happening now is related to you. Chu Leidun tried to slow down the other party's progress with questions. While looking at the Dreamweaver slowly approaching in front of him, a warning signal kept flashing in his brain. The role of the spider web does not seem to be just to bind him. At this moment, Chu Leidun can already vaguely see some kind of illusion. If possible, the spider web may pull him into a deeper dream. However, due to his personal talent, he is not so easy to lose his mind. Calm brain. Introduction. You know from birth that any emotional emotion is a stumbling block on the road to truth, and rational people never collapse. Effect. Your emotions will not enter extreme states, and your emotions will reduce the impact of your decisions by 90%. It is precisely because of this personal talent that Chu Leidun's emotions have been relatively stable so far. Therefore, he can distinguish which are the illusions that the spider web is weaving, and will not be affected by them. Even if he had not lost his mind for a moment, he might not even see the spider web that bound him. The matter of going to war with the Eldar has been put aside by Chu Leidun for the time being. Facing the Dreamweaver who descended from the ceiling and was getting closer and closer to him, Chu Leidun's brain is performing rapid calculations. First of all, the fact that there are mythical races hiding in the dark must be passed on to other lords of the scholar civilization. Otherwise, winning the war with the Eldar or humans is meaningless. The mantis stalks the cicada, and the oriole is behind. Now it is obvious that only the Dreamweaver is the oriole, and they, the lords, are kept in the dark and have no idea. Realizing this, Chu Leidun immediately opened his friend list and sent the message of the Dreamweaver's arrival to his friends. The message received a response quickly. However, looking at the messages from his friends, Chu Leidun's skin wrinkled slightly. He suddenly realized that his message was intercepted, and none of the messages from other lords were really transmitted to them. It's not that the messages from other lords were fake. In fact, the content of the friends' replies was quite impeccable. Even a lord like Chu Leidun who was very familiar with them could not find any fault. But Chu Leidun had discovered the abnormality from other places through his keen insight. I don't know since when, those lords have not talked to me about the Eldar. Facing himself, the culprit who provoked a full-scale war between the two sides. It's impossible for everyone to be so calm. Unless, what he saw was what a certain existence wanted him to see. After realizing this, Chu Leidun found that the Dreamweaver was one step closer to him. His brain was still thinking rapidly, and even the several synapses that stretched out began to swing irregularly. Logically speaking, the distance from the Dreamweaver to himself is not far. The Dreamweaver should have been in front of him a long time ago. It is impossible to be so slow. Unless, the speed of his approach to him is actually irrelevant to his speed. But even if he realized this, Chu Leidun could not stop the Dreamweaver from approaching him. The Dreamweaver would still gradually approach him, and he could not pass on this message. He must find a way to break the situation, and quickly. Wait. In an instant, Chu Leidun realized something. He immediately looked at Qin Sui, who was still facing away from him. He found a suspicious point. It seemed that Qin Sui had never been affected by the Dreamweaver from beginning to end. She could not see the Dreamweaver, and the Dreamweaver had no intention of contacting her. Then, "Hey, Qin Sui." A voice suddenly sounded in Qin Sui's ears. Qin Sui was stunned for a second before realizing that it was her new lord who was calling her. This was the first time that Chu Leidun called Qin Sui's name directly. What's wrong? Under Chu Leidun's expectant gaze, Qin Sui slowly turned around. And the moment he turned around, Chu Leidun's brain stopped for a second. What he saw was a spider face growing on a human neck. Ferocious and terrifying. The Dreamweaver seemed to be one step closer to Chu Leidun. But Chu Leidun quickly stabilized his mind. Facing Qin Sui with a spider face, Chu Leidun said slowly in a tone that seduced an ignorant girl, "The icon with the brain on your left hand is very interesting. Don't you want to try it?" Left hand. Qin Sui looked to his left hand blankly. In the control interface of the Twin Fortress, there was indeed an icon with a brain. Since the Lord said this thing is very interesting, Qin Sui directly reached out and clicked it. In an instant, several devices connected to the line fell from above and fell beside Chu Leidun. Chu Leidun's body shook instantly, and he knew that the first step of his method was effective. Scholar civilization can connect the brain to the device and convert the brain's biological signals into information signals. And these things in front of him are the backup devices he uses to connect to the brain. At this time, the synapses of Chu Leidun's brain squeezed out of the skin and grabbed the device directly. Chu Leidun was very excited when he connected to the device very easily. Sure enough, the spider web can only bind his body, but his brain is still free. Successfully connected to the Twin Fortress. Chu Leidun directly shared the vision that his brain could feel in the control panel in the control room. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, Me She Did. Chapter 457. Ah! What a huge spider! Qin Sui was startled by the appearance of the Dreamweaver that suddenly popped up on the control panel. But after reacting, Qin Sui immediately changed her expression. How dare you scare Sushui? Sushui is not scared. As he spoke, Qin Sui stretched out her fist to cheer herself up. Immediately afterwards, Triton suddenly made a surprising discovery. Qin Sui's body is enlarging little by little. The infinitely expanding body gradually crowded the control room, broke through the ceiling, and even destroyed the entire Twin Fortresses. After the Twin Fortresses were destroyed, Triton discovered that the fleet from the outside world had long disappeared. Also disappearing are the stars in the distance. At this moment, except for the star system where the Twin Fortresses are located, all the original starry skies are swallowed up by the empty darkness. But there are countless giant white webs vaguely woven in the darkness. The star system where the Twin Fortresses are located happens to be trapped within a giant network. However, faced with such a strange scene, Chu Leidun did not take it to heart. Because in his eyes, Qin Sui's body continued to expand after breaking through the Twin Fortresses. Gradually, it has reached the size of a star. Later, it surpassed the stars and filled the entire star system. Only then did Qin Sui stop growing. Today, Qin Sui seems to be able to grab a star and play with it. With the size of Chu Leidun, even a grain of gravel is inferior to Qin Sui. As for the Dreamweaver who was originally in front of him, he was even breached along with the Twin Fortresses, and he didn't know where he was squeezed by Qin Sui. Looking at Qin Sui in front of him, Chu Leidun slowly retracted the shock in his eyes. Well, although the development of things was a bit beyond his expectation, dragging Qin Sui into the water was indeed the right decision. Now Triton has found no trace of the Dreamweaver at all. If you take advantage of this time to send reminders to other lords, they won't be intercepted, right? With this in mind, Chu Leidun slowly opened his friend interface. However, in the friend interface, what Triton saw was not his own friend list. It was the mouthparts of the Dreamweaver that were close to the face and open to the maximum. Why does he appear in his friends list? He had just been shocked by Qin Sui once, and now he encountered such a huge shock again. In an instant, Culiton's emotions exceeded his own personal talent. A huge feeling of panic suddenly surged into Triton's heart. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. The mouth part has been extended from the friends list. Triton didn't even have time to close his friend list before he felt the Dreamweaver's mouthparts piercing his skin and sucking directly towards his brain. Before his brain was sucked dry, only the last sentence flashed through Triton's consciousness. Our understanding of this mythical race is wrong. Plop. The body, with only its dry, flat skin, fell to the floor of the control room. At the same time, Shinsuke finally finished cheering himself up. Opening his eyes carefully, Shinsui looked towards the ceiling, but was there a spider there? Making a confused sound, Shinsui turned around again, only to find that the screen shared by Chu Liden on the control panel had also disappeared. Tilting her head, Shinsui's head flashed with 3 question marks. What about spiders? At this time, Shinsui suddenly felt her finger being touched. Don't touch Susui. With a flick of his finger subconsciously, a creature the size of a fingernail was thrown against the wall by Shinsui. Only then did Shinsui realize that there was no one in the control room. Who else could have touched him? Could it be the new lord? Shinsui shuddered at the thought that Chu Liden might be an old pervert, and felt a chill all over her body. He looked at Tradon like he was looking at trash. It was only then that Shinsui discovered that Chu Liden had already collapsed on the ground, losing all vital signs. Subconsciously, he turned aside the security machine next to him. The security machine did not notice Dryden's death at all, and is still pressing the remaining layer of Dryden's skin on the ground. This made Shinsui very suspicious. Could it be that his new lord was pinned to death by these 2 security machines? Hey, the new lord was pinned to death. Then Susui might as well go back. Because he didn't see the spider, Shinsui immediately forgot about the spider episode. Maybe it was just a little joke played by the new lord on her? As for now. Neutral Affairs Officer, Shinsui, please join your camp. In the combat base, Gao Qiang subconsciously glanced at the time when he saw the prompt popping up from the wargame. No, how long has it passed before Shinsui came back again? A ridiculous idea suddenly flashed into his mind. If Shinsui is always sold, wouldn't he be able to take over the entire universe without a single blow? Shaking his head, Gao Qiang quickly threw away this perverted idea. The idea of selling your own little girl or something is really terrifying. Okay. He readily agreed to Shinsui's application for return. Gao Qiang then turned his attention back to Huan's hero. At this moment, the Marines dispatched by the assault fleet have successfully dismantled the core of the twin fortresses. It was a spherical mechanical object, with light blue energy textures carved on its surface. Core, mass anchor. At the same time, Gao Qiang also received 3 tips for the wargame. You get the complete technology tree, gravitation. You get the complete technology tree, cosmic ballistics. You get the complete technology tree, superluminal suppression. The first 2 technology trees are obviously from the Gemini Fortress. As for why the third technology tree was obtained, it seems that Lei Heshuo's attack on the Tianjing Fortress was also completed quite smoothly. Sure enough, just when Gao Qiang's thoughts fell. In the combat base, Lei Heshuo had already intervened in the communication with Huan's hero. At the same time, the picture of the star system where the Tyrannosaurus fleet was located was also transmitted. In the star system, the fleet of the Scholar civilization had already fought with the fleet of the Eldar. Not long ago, these fleets were still standing on the same front, jointly preventing the Tyrannosaurus fleet from attacking the Tianjing fortress. But just now, I don't know what happened, the other side seemed to have an internal conflict. Not only did the 2 tribes start fighting among themselves, but a group of fleets even turned their spearheads around and rushed to the Tianjing fortress before the Tyrannosaurus fleet. The battle was so chaotic that the Tyrannosaurus fleet barely spent much effort before successfully attacking the Tianjing fortress and taking out the core from it. At this point, Lei Heshuo used a projection to show the cores obtained from the Tianjing fortress. Core, superluminal inhibitor. That is to say, now, we have obtained 3 cores. Gao Qiang calculated in his mind. Currently, in the Brilliant Fleet, the Special Fleet carries the Quantum Matrix, the Assault Fleet carries the Mass Anchor, and the Tyrannosaurus Fleet carries the Superluminal Inhibitor. He has gathered the 3 cores needed to create an artificial miracle. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, Mi Shida Di. Chapter 458. Let everyone come back. In order to avoid long nights and many dreams, Gao Qiang directly issued an order for all members to return. Gao Qiang had no intention of getting involved in the war between the Eldar tribe and the Scholar civilization. He has not forgotten that neither the Scholar civilization nor the Eldar are the target of this operation. He has only one target, and that is the Dreamweaver hiding in the dark. If the matter of Dreamweaver cannot be properly handled, then no matter how we target the Eldar or Scholar civilization, it will be meaningless behavior. Good. Huan's hero smiled and replied to Gao Qiang. Obviously, after taking out the core from the twin fortress, Huan's hero's mood instantly became very bright. Therefore, things like face are conserved. Face lost with one person will always come back elsewhere. As all fleets issued return orders. When all the forces were unaware, the fleet of the Brilliant Empire had completely separated from the conventional star map and was far away from the battlefields of all races. The main fleet has returned to port. The raiding fleet has returned to port. For every fleet that successfully returns to port, the combat base will give corresponding prompts. At this time, the cosmic projection surrounding Gao Qiang and Huan's hero also lowered, revealing the bright command room of the combat base. Out. Lian Qian's teasing voice came from the side. Everyone looked around and saw Lian Qian holding up the empty cup and giving a simple gesture to everyone. At this time, Lei Heshuo's voice came from the other side. Everyone on my side is also back. Actually, Miss Jin Sui's fleet has also entered the port. 401's expression appeared on the big screen at the combat base. Because it will take some time for Miss Jin Sui to go to the combat base, you may not see Miss Jin Sui so soon. However, all 3 cores required for artificial miracles have been gathered. Lord, do you authorize me to create artificial miracles now? Yes. Gao Qiang did not hesitate and directly provided authorization to 401. Okay, estimated manufacturing time, 10 minutes. So fast. Gao Qiang did not expect that artificial miracles could be created so quickly in the 401 plan. Of course, this may also be related to the core itself. The core of Qingtian Fortress was created using miracles. Now it's just a matter of recreating many miracles that have been used, which probably saves a lot of time. However, Gao Qiang still couldn't help but look forward to it. The quantum matrix, mass anchor point, and hyperspace suppressor are not simple cores. I don't know what kind of surprise 401 can bring to me when the 3 kings are combined into one. 10 minutes is actually very fast. Before Qin Sui returned to the combat base, the synthesized miracle item had been delivered to Gao Qiang. Only. Are you sure this is a miracle? Gao Qiang looked at the items handed to him by 401 through the robotic arm, and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Why does this thing look so much like the floating ball he played in his previous life? It still looks like the kind of low-quality goods you get from an online shopping platform with a 10 yuan wallet postage. Yes, I'm sure. After receiving a positive reply from 401, Gao Qiang looked at the panel of the miracle item in front of him with no longer any expectations. It turned out that it was really a floating ball. Loyal suspended ball, miracle. Introduction. It is said that the world is a huge circle. When you throw this suspended ball, it will definitely fly back to you in the other direction. Characteristics: soul binding, automatic obstacle avoidance, speed limit, and slow travel, extremely fragile. Soul binding, through quantum entanglement, it has loyally completed its binding to you. When you throw it, the loyal hovering ball will fly back to you no matter how far away it is. Automatic obstacle avoidance, this unit has super strong gravity and will push itself to a safe area when encountering obstacles. Slow speed limit, all super light strikes that attempt to attack this unit will be forced to slow down to below the speed of light. Extremely fragile, this unit is extremely fragile and will break if pinched. After Gao Qiang read the last feature, he closed the interface without saying anything. Well, this is really a miracle item, and it even inherits all the elements of the three cores. But how come such powerful elements become so strange when integrated together? For a moment, Gao Qiang felt as if three kings had exploded into one little yakuza. I tried playing with the floating ball first. Gao Qiang opened his palms, and the floating ball rotated slightly above his palms. Then he threw it forward, and the suspended ball first flew out of Gao Qiang's field of vision, and then flew steadily back to Gao Qiang's hand from Gao Qiang's left front. Well, other than that, Gao Qiang really couldn't think of any other ways to play with the floating ball. To say that I wasn't disappointed would be a lie. Fortunately, the purpose of this miracle was just to be destroyed, so there was no need to be disappointed. Thinking of this, Gao Qiang stretched out his hand to pinch the floating ball and exerted slight force. Cracks appeared on the surface of the floating ball instantly. As Gao Qiang's power increased, the cracks spread like spider webs, and the entire suspended ball instantly fell to the ground in Gao Qiang's hands. Time also stopped at this moment. It seems that the level of miracles has not been affected, Gao Qiang muttered silently in his heart. It seems that the strength of miracles really does not affect the level of miracle paths. Even if the floating ball only has the characteristic of being fun, it is still a real miracle after all. Compared with other miracles, the floating ball that destroys loyalty seems to have no other special effects except for missing some special effects. Say your wish. A rigid voice appeared in Gao Qiang's ears. However, compared with the past, Gao Qiang had obviously made a decision early this time. I want the ability to transform external objects into the ability of the Lord Path. After saying that, Gao Qiang looked nervously at the broken floating ball in his hand. He knew that what he said was very convoluted, but this convoluted point should not be difficult for the wisdom of the miracle path. The most important thing is that the wish he made this time is relatively broad. Although Gao Qiang's goal is the dream weaver, in his wish, he mentioned all external objects. Therefore, Gao Qiang has also made plans for failure. If this wish is really too big, then he will narrow the scope of the wish and target the dream weaver. However, Gao Qiang did not hear the response of failure. Your wish has been fulfilled. So smooth. Gao Qiang was a little unbelievable. He did not expect that this wish would be so smooth as a dream. Subconsciously opening the personal panel, Gao Qiang looked at the ability he had obtained through this wish. Miracle, Level 7. Insect Catching Net. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 459. Bug Net. Introduction. Do you know the poke ball? Yes, it has nothing to do with that thing. Effect. You can place a life or non-life that cannot resist on this ability, and it will be transformed into your subject. Limited to 1. Does this count as the effect of my wish? It should count. Gao Qiang is a little unsure. After seeing the effect of the bug net, he understood why this wish was fulfilled so easily. Because the miracle path chose a tricky way. Gao Qiang can indeed place external objects on the Lord path of the bug net, but then he can only summon it as a subject, and cannot directly use the other party's power. And there is also a quantity limit. This miracle path can only place one life or non-life. It is equivalent to Gao Qiang exchanging a subject whose strength and loyalty are unknown at the cost of a Lord path. His I don't know if it is a loss or a profit when I think about it this way. Shaking his head, Gao Qiang shook out the messy thoughts from his mind. In short, he made this wish because he was attracted by the ability of the Dreamweaver. From the previous contact in the preparation stage, the ability of the Dreamweaver is not only to make the fallen empire enter the brilliant state, intercepting information, creating illusions, and even preventing the use of the ability of the miracle path. The Dreamweaver is simply an all-rounder. If Gao Qiang directly obtains the ability of the Dreamweaver through wishes, 1 or 2 wishes will definitely not be able to do so many things. However, the ability of the insect net can make everything of the Dreamweaver available to Gao Qiang. So, the only question now is how to find the Dreamweaver and make the Dreamweaver lose its resistance. Just as Gao Qiang was thinking, a voice sounded underground. I'm back. Qin Sui took the elevator to enter the combat base. Beside her, there was Ping Suizong, who was rescued by the assault fleet. Ping Suizong was staring with his eyes wide open, as if he couldn't believe that humans actually had such a place. He had just seen a port that could accommodate hundreds of thousands of starships. What a terrifying data! So far, no organization in the human race has a total of hundreds of thousands of starships. Oh no, now there is one. Looking at Gao Qiang, who was surrounded by the crowd, Ping Suizong opened his mouth and was about to say something when he was pushed aside by Qin Sui. After pushing Ping Suizong away, Qin Sui stepped forward and gave Gao Qiang a big hug. Woo woo, Sui missed you, Lord. Although she said woo woo, there was no sadness in Qin Sui's expression. Feeling the soft and petite figure falling into his arms, Gao Qiang couldn't help but reach out and touch Qin Sui's hair. He. Qin Sui narrowed her eyes slightly. Don't sell Sui next time, Lord. Otherwise Sui will come back by herself. But, I didn't sell it. Hearing this, Gao Qiang paused and explained quickly. No matter how poor he was, he wouldn't have to make a living by selling his own people, right? Ah, is that so? Looking at Gao Qiang, he really looked very innocent, not like a fake expression. Qin Sui blinked blankly. Who sold Sui? At this time, Huan's hero, who had been listening for a long time, finally reacted. You were sold. Then he covered the corners of his mouth with his hands and laughed like a villain. Puff puff puff, since you were sold, why did you come back? Go away. He waved his hands and looked like he was going to drive Qin Sui out. Qin Sui pouted angrily. After seeing this scene, Zhu sighed helplessly. He looked aside, Sister Lianqian. Lianqian made an okay gesture. Then the two of them walked forward quickly. Lianqian hugged Huan's hero into her arms, and Zhu pulled Qin Sui to the side of Shashat. The field was instantly quiet. Gao Qiang couldn't help but secretly give them a thumbs up. The two of them resolved the upcoming battle so easily. Okay, Zhiro is tired, I'll take Zhiro back to rest first, Lianqian said with a smile. I'm not tired, Huan's hero wanted to say something, but Lianqian hugged her tighter, and she was stuck in front of Lianqian's chest and couldn't move. I can't breathe, Da. Huan's hero was carried away by Lianqian, and the field was really quiet. Gao Qiang turned his head to look at Qin Sui. Sasha was just reaching out and handing a piece of potato chips to Qin Sui. Do you want to eat? Then before Qin Sui could speak, she put the potato chips in her mouth and chewed them up with a click. Woo! This time, Qin Sui really had tears in her eyes. She felt like she was being bullied. Looking at this warm scene in front of him, Ping Suizong, as an outsider, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. So, the alliance between the elven race and the scholar civilization was shattered by such a group of leaders. This made him feel like decades of hard work had all gone to waste. Okay, stop bullying me. Zhu knocked on Sasha's head in annoyance. then snatched the potato chips from Sasha's hand and stuffed them into Chin Sui's hand. Hee hee. Chin Sui finally burst into laughter. As a prize, tears welled up in Sasha's eyes again. Sister Juluo. Juluo immediately spread her hands. Don't look at me like that, it's useless to look at me like that, if you keep eating, you will become fat like a pig sooner or later. I won't get fat, Sister Juluo. Sasha wanted to get close to Juluo, but Juluo moved away. Seeing that Juluo really didn't intend to return the potato chips to her, Sasha hid in a corner in disappointment, drawing circles on the ground with her fingers. A melancholy and dark painting style enveloped Sasha. If you get closer, you can hear Sasha muttering constantly, "It's just a bandit, even worse than a bandit." Seeing this, Juluo glared to the side. The technician sitting next to him hurriedly smiled embarrassedly and turned off the projection covering Sasha's head. At this time, the potato chips, which were not long left, had been eaten by Chin Sui. Licking his lips, Chin Sui raised his head, only to find that Gao Qiang had been staring at him. "Well, what's the matter, Lord?" Gao Qiang suddenly came back to his senses when he heard Chin Sui calling him. He had just been distracted. Because he was looking at Chin Sui, he suddenly had an idea, but he didn't know if it would work. That is, could he use Chin Sui's luck to find the existence of the Dream Weaver? After all, Gao Qiang had seen an entry called Sui Sui Pingan in Chin Sui's entry. Sui Sui Pingan, this unit has an extremely high luck value, and sometimes produces unexpected surprises. So, how lucky is an extremely high luck value? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, Mi Shida Di. Chapter 460. After thinking for a while, Gao Qiang decided to ask Chin Sui directly. Can you help me find the Dream Weaver? Dream Weaver, what is that? Chin Sui tilted her head, showing a cute look. Well, it's just. Gao Qiang didn't know how to describe it for a while. Describe a monster the size of a star system? If it is described in this way, wouldn't it be more convenient to use the fully opened star map to search? But apparently there is no trace of the Dream Weaver in the star map. As for appearance, Gao Qiang is actually not very descriptive. After all, he had only seen Dream Weaver once, and he didn't even know whether that appearance was what Dream Weaver looked like or if he was just imagining it in his dream. Probably, it's like a spider, right? Gao Qiang guessed. Spider? Chin Sui was a little surprised. Lord, why are you looking for spiders too? Wait, what is it called? Gao Qiang noticed something wrong in Chin Sui's words. He had only mentioned Dream Weaver to a few people in Juluo. This should be the first time he described Dream Weaver's appearance to Chin Sui. Why did Chin Sui say a word? The Lord who bought me also told me about spiders and other things. Chin Sui pointed her finger at her lips. Gao Qiang frowned. So, the Lord of the Twin Fortresses has also seen the Dream Weaver? In other words, the one the Dream Weaver is targeting is not just him? Or does it have a deeper meaning? What happened to that Lord in the end? Gao Qiang suddenly asked. Of course it's dead. Chin Sui smiled and said very scary words, but Gao Qiang couldn't help but shed a drop of cold sweat. Did you watch him being killed by Dream Weaver? Gao Qiang continued to ask. No, Chin Sui shook her head, I was just cheering myself up, but when I opened my eyes again, the Lord was already dead. In other words, Dream Weaver can kill people silently. Next to Chin Sui, Gao Qiang thought in his heart. Although he is currently in his own base camp. But after all, Gao Qiang does not have the personal talent of Chu Liden. Knowing that Dream Weaver has the ability to kill him at any time, he still panicked for a moment. Ah! Suddenly, Gao Qiang felt pain in the back of his hand. He suddenly raised his hand and saw a big spider biting the back of his hand, tearing off a piece of flesh and oozing out a lot of blood. "Spider, spider, spider," Qin Sui screamed. Hearing Qin Sui's scream, the spider on the back of Gao Qiang's hand also realized that he had been discovered. He released his bite on the back of Gao Qiang's hand, turned his head carefully, and looked into Gao Qiang's eyes. So big. The atmosphere was awkward for a second. Immediately afterwards, Gao Qiang saw the spider on the back of his hand fall to the ground with a pop. The spider that fell to the ground turned its belly upwards, pretending to be completely dead. This. Gao Qiang looked around, picked up a pen on the table nearby, and poked the spider that fell on the ground. But no matter how Gao Qiang played, the spider never moved. At this time, Qin Sui finally finished cheering herself up and plucked up the courage to approach Gao Qiang. "Wow, Lord, did you kill the spider?" "No, I haven't done anything yet," Gao Qiang said angrily. "Where did he hit the spider?" "He was bitten and didn't complain, okay." Thinking of this, Gao Qiang raised the back of his hand and took a look, only to see a shocking bloody mouth. "I really don't know where the spiders came from in the combat base. I don't know if this spider is poisonous or not. If there are any genotoxins. Damn it, this bite won't make him mutate into some kind of Spider-Man, right?" While Gao Qiang was focusing all his attention on his wounds, the spider that was turning its stomach on the ground suddenly returned to its normal position. He glanced at Gao Qiang cautiously, and then wanted to run towards the gate of the combat base. However, at this moment, a big hand grabbed the spider's back and lifted it up. "Hey, Sister Juluo, do you think this thing is edible?" Shasha grabbed the spider and brought it close to Juluo, licking her lips slightly. Juluo glanced at spider. "It's edible, but it's better to say that the protein of insects is very rich, but there is no meat." "It doesn't matter, Sister Juluo will definitely not let me down." While speaking, Shasha had already stuffed the spider into Juluo's hand. The spider that was struggling just now became extremely quiet once it was in Juluo's hands. It felt the strong smell of blood in Juluo's hands. How many lives must be killed to have such a pair of hands? This is simply a murderer, no, a butcher. Then let me try. Juluo thought for a while and agreed to Shasha's request. Cooking spiders seems quite challenging, doesn't it? Even the spider in my hand is not big. I really don't know how much meat can be picked out. He noticed that Juluo's aura was getting worse and worse. The spider took advantage of the moment when Juluo opened his palm and jumped back to Gao Qiang's hair. "You have contacted Dreamweaver Lord Elvis, without resisting. Do you want to place your miraculous talent, insect catching net?" "Ah!" Gao Qiang was obviously startled when he suddenly heard the wargame prompt. Then he reached out and grabbed the spider above his head and examined it carefully. Hey, after being reminded by the wargame, if you look carefully, it really looks like the Dreamweaver that Gao Qiang saw during the preparation stage. But why did the Dreamweaver, which is comparable to the size of a star, shrink to such a small amount? Gao Qiang looked at the Dreamweaver, which was only half the size of a palm. With such a small size, it's not even as good as those from the Eldar and Scholar civilizations, right? Although I don't know why this is happening. But Gao Qiang still turned his head and kissed Qin Sui on the face. In Gao Qiang's view, the appearance of the defenseless Dreamweaver in front of him was obviously inseparable from Qin Sui's luck. "Sushui is really my lucky star." Qin Sui's face turned red instantly. "Lord, what are you doing?" "Ha ha." Gao Qiang did not explain, but turned his head and chose to put Dreamweaver in the insect net. As the little Dreamweaver in his hand was sucked into the personal interface, the insect net icon was replaced by a spider weaving a web. You have successfully placed the unresisting Dreamweaver Lord on the insect net. You obtain the subject, Lost Dream. War game prompt ends. The next moment, a naked woman suddenly appeared out of thin air and fell in front of Gao Jiang. Wet dream. Race, Dreamweaver. Occupation, Psychologist. Loyalty, 3-2. Characteristics, shape follows the heart, strengthened by fear, becomes stronger when weak, thousands of dreams blind the eyes, true and false can change shape. After falling to the ground, May obviously didn't realize what happened. First he raised his hands, looked at the 5 fingers on each palm, and then looked at his bare legs and feet. Suddenly, Wet Dream burst into tears. Lord of all people, am I the only one in the fallen empire? Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 461. Wow! Tears fell down, wetting the ground of the combat base. I don't want to become a human, humans are so ugly, I don't want to become a 4-legged sheep with only 4 limbs. Wow! Yimen cried and sobbed, and the sad tone made the listeners sad and cry. Even Sasha looked at Gao Jiang with strange eyes. Lord, you bully girls, eh? Hearing Sasha's disgusted voice, Gao Jiang subconsciously looked at the back of his hand. No, isn't he the one who was injured? Why did Yimen cry and make him feel like a sinner? After thinking about it, Gao Jiang was ready to say a few words of comfort. That, Yimen. Yimen stopped crying before she said half of the words. Staring at Gao Jiang with tearful eyes, Yimen gritted his teeth and said, "My name is Elvis." Hearing this, Gao Jiang subconsciously opened the interface of the people and took a look. Well, it's Yimen. Then he continued, that Yimen, there's nothing wrong with becoming a human. At least. His. Gao Jiang rubbed his chin, racking his brains to think about what advantages humans have over the Weaver race. My name is Elvis, Yimen subconsciously refuted. Then he glared at Gao Jiang, who was still thinking hard. Look, you can't even say it yourself. Weevu, I don't want to become a 4-legged sheep, even if I become a fly or a mosquito, it's much more beautiful than a 4-legged sheep. Crying and crying. Yimen suddenly found that no one comforted her. Instead, her earlobe was suddenly wrapped by something. Subconsciously glanced at it with the corner of her eye, and saw Sasha biting her earlobe and licking it with her tongue. What are you doing? Yimen asked subconsciously. Sasha blinked her eyes. It's okay, I'll just taste it first. You keep crying, just pretend I don't exist. You human want to eat me, Yimen screamed. No, she has become a ghost, and she is going to eat herself. Well, but it doesn't taste like a spider when it becomes like this. Can you change back? Sasha licked her lips and asked sincerely. I prefer the original taste of meat. No. Yimen jumped up subconsciously, got behind Gao Jiang, and stayed away from Sasha, who was extremely scary in her eyes. Sasha pouted in dissatisfaction. Don't give Sasha snacks, and don't let Sasha eat meat, Sasha is so pitiful. Ding. Your subject Yimen, the loyalty to you has increased by 29. Hearing the prompt of the war game, Gao Jiang opened the subject interface of Yimen and took a look. Sure enough, the loyalty has increased to 61, which is a little above the passing line. Such high loyalty. Even in the feudal era, the loyalty of the paladins to their lords did not reach the terrifying 61 points, right? Gao Jiang couldn't help but sigh. Then he gave Sasha a well-done look. I believe that Sasha's eye language level is 10, and she must understand what he wants to express. I'll treat you to a big meal later, Gao Jiang whispered. Okay. Add more meat. Sasha jumped for joy and walked to the side with satisfaction. Seeing Sasha walking away, Yimen had the courage to get out from behind Gao Jiang and cast a grateful look at Gao Jiang. At this moment, Yimen found that the wound on the back of Gao Jiang's hand was still dripping with blood. Does it hurt? Yimen suddenly asked softly. Then, in Gao Jiang's surprised eyes, he grabbed Gao Jiang's injured hand and put it on his chest. Blow it and it won't hurt. As he said that, Yi Meng actually blew gently on Gao Qiang's wound. What a joke, how could it not hurt? Gao Qiang just thought of this, and suddenly found that the wound on his hand had disappeared without a trace. Did you do this? Looking at the flawless white skin on the back of his hand, Gao Qiang was a little stunned. So, is he still dreaming now? Thinking of this, Gao Qiang opened the interface of the people of the dream and continued to read the characteristics that he had not finished reading just now. Shape follows heart. You can mark up to 10 Lord units whenever their emotions fluctuate. You can choose whether to appear at a random position next to them. Fear enhancement. You are the master of dreams and the embodiment of fear. All units facing you will increase their fear by 10 times, and have a chance to see hallucinations that terrify them. Stronger when weak. When any unit faces you, the more the other party feels insignificant, the stronger you will be. No multiplier limit. 1,000 dreams. You can create a dream within a dream within a dream, and it is difficult for any unit to escape from the real dream you weave. Real and fake transformation. When you are hurt in a dream, this hurt is not necessarily real. When the target you mark dies in a dream, this death is definitely real. Such a comprehensive and powerful feature. Just by looking at these few items, Gao Qiang has seen a series of superpowers such as instant movement, infinite enhancement, and damage negation. I can't believe that such a dream weaver is afraid of being eaten by Shasha. But now Gao Qiang knows why the two dream weavers are not at the same level of combat power. When Gao Qiang encountered the dream weaver in the preparation stage, he was the first to be caught off guard. The miracle path could not be used yet, so he could deeply feel his own insignificance. There is no bonus limit for the characteristic of being strong when encountering the weak. In other words, the Dreamweaver at that time had no idea how much it had been strengthened, and it was probably not a problem to explode stars at will. But now this time, Gao Qiang was standing in his own territory, accompanied by Zhu and his group, and there were hundreds of thousands of starships docked outside. Even if he was afraid, he would not feel insignificant at all. The Dreamweaver misjudged the situation and thought that fear and feeling insignificant could be equated, so he immediately appeared next to Gao Qiang. The result was that the Dreamweaver that appeared this time was not even half the size of Gao Qiang's palm, and was easily controlled by Gao Qiang. I see. Gao Qiang made a fist with one hand and slapped it on his palm, feeling that he had understood everything. Looking at the dream that was just blowing him. After recovering from Gao Qiang's wound, Yi Meng suddenly seemed to have nothing to do, and stood there looking at Gao Qiang eagerly. I always feel that you will become a good wife and mother in the future. Gao Qiang couldn't help laughing. No, I will never mate with ugly hairless monkeys, Yi Meng said firmly. After thinking for a while, she continued to add, the 40-legged centipede is much more beautiful than humans. Well, the aesthetics of races are indeed not so easy to change. Gao Qiang sighed. Perhaps Yi Meng didn't realize that she was actually quite beautiful in the eyes of humans at this moment. That Yi Meng suddenly turned her head to the side and pointed at Ping Suizong, who had been eating melons. Is this human also a lord? He knows a lot of things. Do you want me to help you kill him?